Very good afternoon, one and all. We are going to start our afternoon session. The topic which is given as per the schedule is understanding vocational training through a lens of ABA. Nidhiga Thapan ma'am will be talking or sharing her knowledge regarding this topic. She is a board certified behavior analyst with a master's in early childhood special education from the University of Texas, Austin. During her early years as a behavior analyst, Nidhiga managed classrooms of pre-adolescent learners between the ages of 8 to 12, where Madam focuses was on language, academic, and social development of the children. In the recent years, Ma'am has worked on the setting up pre-vocational and vocational programs for schools in Gurgaon, India. Her focus has been to integrate students into the rapidly digitalized industry and provide digital literacy to young adults seeking to enter the job market. She is currently working with the young adults in an office space to teach job readiness skills and create internship opportunities for neurodiverse individuals. I welcome you, ma'am. The platform is all yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Before I start, I just like everybody to type in what is the age range of the kids or clients जिनके साथ आप काम करते हैं. Just a broad age range is also fine till I pull up my slides.
4 to 15 years.
4 to 15 years. Wow, that's a big range. Okay. 2 to 14. Lovely.
2 to 18 years.
2 to 18 years. All right. So you're all working with young kids as well as kids in the older age. So great. This will be relevant as well. All right. And सबको मेरा slide दिख रहा है?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
It's visible.
Great. So let's get, oops. All right. So up until now, in the seminar में हम बात कर रहे थे about behaviors. What is a behavior? उसका function क्या होता है? एक बार function समझ आ जाए तो उसको हम regulate कैसे कर सकते हैं through antecedent strategies, through communication strategies. And this is very important as a base for ABA. The other side of ABA is also acquiring skills, teaching new skills. And as our children grow older, हमें more and more socially valid skills सोचने होते हैं. So I really like कि आप लोग एक broad range of बच्चों के साथ काम कर रहे हैं. So you'll see that the skills you work on for a 2 to 4-year-old vastly different from the skills you're going to work on from a teenage onwards bacha, and even more different from a skills you're going to work on from a child who has gone through puberty, maybe 18, 19, and then you're looking at what next. So today let's talk a little bit about what next. I have been working in the vocational training space थोड़ा सा pandemic से पहले, but mostly pandemic में काफी deep dive लिया into vocational training, and started off with virtual vocational training, went into now collaborating with office spaces कि हम अपने बच्चों को वहाँ भेजकर clerical work कर सकें, expose करा सकें to different skills. So today I'll talk about those examples, but I would love to hear from you also as we go along. As our kids grow older, हम more and more life skills के बारे में सोचने लग जाते हैं. And we start thinking about spaces of interpersonal skills. For instance, it may start off with communication skills like basic mandate, कि अपने needs आप मुझे बता सको. But as they grow older, those mands tacting, labels, conversations develop into आज दिन में क्या हुआ, what did you enjoy the most, what was the most challenging, या आप वो शो देख रहे हो, मैं भी वही शो देख रही हूँ, let's talk about it. So it becomes a way for us to connect with other people around us. So that's a major life skill जो हम from young age सिखाते हैं, but it morphs as you grow older. वो change होता है कि आप क्या content सिखा रहे हो interpersonal skills में. Once you are kind of picking that up, or simultaneously rather, you're also learning कि आप अपने hygiene, अपने body का ख्याल कैसे रखोगे. So you're brushing, you're bathing, toileting, as well as घर में अपने immediate environment में कैसे contribute करोगे. So maybe it's cooking a easy sandwich, या जाके snack ले आना अपने लिए, या clothes को fold करके रख लेना अपने, या तो laundry कर लेना, helping out with the cleaning. These become your independent living skills. ये आपके immediate environment के skills हैं जो आपको for the rest of your life you'll have to engage in. You'll have to take care of your own hygiene and contribute to the household in small ways. As many ways as हम expose कर सकते हैं, obviously that is going to be better. And now that we have learned how to kind of manage our own environment, interact with the people around us, we start thinking कि how can we contribute to the community? और यहाँ पर vocational skills आते हैं. They are just a part of life skills where we start stepping out into the community, learn a specific type of job or profession के skills and contribute back to them. And if you see, all these skills will be with you throughout your life. So once you have out of your education phase, you want to start thinking, how can my child start learning these life skills? तो हम अपने goal setting in life skills के around करना शुरू करते हैं. What is vocational training? Simply put, ये वो training या skills हैं जो हमारे को एक particular job या profession के लिए required होते हैं. Traditionally, हम vocational training non-academic training के साथ associate करते थे. Mechanical work, handy work, जहाँ पे you're using more of your hand and labor. But for our space of education, for our neurodiverse client, हम सोचते हैं कि कोई भी एक job लो, उसके around जितने skills हैं, वो vocational skills हैं for that particular job. How do we know कि हमारा learner vocational skills सीखने के लिए ready है? ये conversation हम around 14 years पे शुरू करते हैं. It is not going to be the case कि हम 14 साल के बच्चे को job market में भेज देंगे कि go do your work. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about starting conversation with parents. अब आपका बच्चा teenage years में आ गया है. What are your thoughts about your child 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Just starting conversation with parents, get them thinking in this direction. कि what do you see? Where do you see your child living? क्या वो आपके साथ रहता है? क्या वो boarding में रहता है? क्या वो roommates के साथ रहता है? Because accordingly आप उसको और independent living skills सिखाना चाहोगे. क्या आपको चाहिए कि आपका बच्चा कहीं बाहर जाके काम करे in the next 5-10 years? Then maybe we need to start exposing them to different hobbies and activities now. So he does not get inflexible when it's time to actually move out of the house and start working outside. So ये conversations हम around the age of 14 शुरू करते हैं. We start looking at the child and assessing the goals. कि अभी तक जो goals हम कर रहे हैं, do they have to become more socially valid? The term we use अभी हमने ethical discussion, ethical seminar में, do we have to start making them more functional for the child? Other things that we need to start looking at the age of 14 is कि बच्चा toilet trained है कि नहीं. Big skill. कि अगर हम independent होंगे outside of house, are we toilet trained or not? One side of this is कि yes, child goes, they produce in the pot, they come out, they know exactly जब pressure build हो रहा है. But even if the child is not able to understand the pressure because of n number of medical concerns or reasons, that's fine. Toilet train could also mean that you can manage your diaper, but independently outside. So adult is not needed to help you with that space, and you know how to kind of take out your dirty diaper, put a new one, and go about your day. जिससे कि आप 2-3 घंटे घर के बाहर स्पेंड कर सको आराम से. क्या आपका बच्चा एक स्पेसिफाइड ड्यूरेशन के लिए इंडिपेंडेंटली काम कर सकता है कि नहीं? वी वांट कि धीरे धीरे बच्चे को रीइंफोर्सर पे रिलायंस हट जाए एंड वो अपने आप लॉन्गर एंड लॉन्गर टाइम के लिए काम कर सके. as we do. We work for a full month before we get paid. We are not expecting our children to do that, but 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, slowly increase the time that they can work on one task for a given duration. Following more complex directions, हम शुरू करते हैं by teaching them discrete behavior, match, sort, write A. How do I make that into a multiple step direction? तो अगर sorting का skill हमें आता है, can we make it multi step की मेरे को सारे जो glasses हैं इधर उधर पड़े हुए हैं, collect them and put them at the sink. तो अंडरस्टैंडिंग द डायरेक्शन ऑफ कलेक्टिंग ऑल द ग्लासेस लिविंग रूम में जितने हैं, फिर किचन में जाना और सिंक में रखना, मल्टी स्टेप डायरेक्शन. एंड इट कैन बी एज स्मॉल एज ग्लासेस सिंक में रख दो. इससे समझ आ जाना चाहिए कि सारे ग्लासेस कलेक्ट करने, किचन में जाना है, सिंक में रखना है, या ग्लासेस धो दो. तो यू आर एडिंग मोर स्टेप्स, मल्टी स्टेप डायरेक्शंस. हैव योर चाइल्ड अंडरस्टैंड बीइंग एबल टू डू longer and longer sets of tasks जो हम डिस्क्रीटली सिखाते हैं. एंड फाइनली कुछ को रेगुलेशन स्किल्स होने चाहिए. अगर हम बाहर स्टेप करने वाले हैं, ऑफ कोर्स बिहेवियर्स आर गोइंग टू हैपन, सम डिसरेगुलेशन इमोशंस में होंगे ही, लेकिन क्या हम बच्चे को को रेगुलेशन स्ट्रेटजी सिखा सकते हैं कि मुझे बता देना अगर आपको ब्रेक चाहिए. You can always go and sit on the side if you feel nervous or anxious or you're feeling like overwhelming हो रहा है आपके लिए, which means कि मैं ज्यादा prompt दे रही हूँ तो आप मुझे बता सकते हो, आप साइड में जाके बैठ सकते हो. For my children जो हम ऑफिस स्पेस में काम करते हैं, जब मैं बहुत ज्यादा prompting करती हूँ, I can tell that my child starts flapping his hands. उससे दो चीजें हो रही हैं. एक तो उसको ब्रेक मिल जाता है मेरी बातों से, बिकॉज जब वो हैंड फ्लैप करता है तो ऑटोमेटिकली आई स्टॉप टॉकिंग. एंड सेकेंडली मुझे एक सिग्नल मिल जाता है कि माई चाइल्ड नीड सम को रेगुलेशन, मीनिंग नेक्स्ट जो टास्क में दूंगी वो थोड़ा इजी रखेंगे, एंटीसीडेंटली उसको थोड़ा सा रेगुलेट करने में हेल्प करेंगे, बिकॉज एवरीबडी नीड्स थोड़ा बहुत हेल्प वंस इन अ व्हाइल. But the great thing is that they are able to tell me and signal to me कि I am dysregulated, please मेरी next आगे जाते हुए थोड़ा हेल्प कर दो, इतना काम, इतना prompting, I am not comfortable. So these are some readiness skills that we want to see. So at the age of 14, ये skills पे काम करना शुरू करना, goal set करना would be a good strategy. What are some vocations जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं? We can start off with grocery keeping. Modern Bazaar has started taking interns जहाँ पर आप सिर्फ grocery stacking कर सकते हो. So just the skill of sorting and stacking becomes naturalized in a grocery store. Similarly, Big Bazaar bhi has employees, in fact, on a neurodiverse spectrum, जो कि जाके clothes के management करते हैं. They stack the clothes, they help the customers. So that is another space जहाँ पर हमारे kids can be employed in grocery stores या तो department stores, clothing stores. We also have kids जिनको assembling items अच्छा लगता है. तो you have sheltered workshops जहाँ पर kids are making soaps, candles, cards. You can move out of that also and start seeing कि अगर assembling अच्छा लगता है, instruction following and putting items together अच्छा लगता है, तो can we work with carpentry and furniture? Can we work with appliances like bulbs and lighting? So let's think out of the box and see कहाँ हमारे बच्चे handy हो सकते हैं if they like that skill, that particular skill. If our kids have understanding of words and numbers, तो same एक repetitive task जिसमें एक procedure है कि आपको सारे clothes scan करके रखने हैं, एक cashier का job, but it ends in bill भी generate करना है और money भी manage करना है. So depending on your child's skill, you can look at cashier jobs as well. Similar to cashier, अगर literacy है तो we can talk about inventory keeping for any of these jobs, stacking, sorting things. और इसी का inventory रखना कि कितने items हैं हमारे पास, कहाँ पड़े हैं, हमारे stack store में कितने हैं, storage में कितने हैं, and shop में कितने हैं. So you can start doing more of the academic tasks around it. A space that I have gotten very interested in is digital literacy. तो अभी with COVID and everything, to for kids to know कि email कैसे भेजना है. अगर word document में कुछ pictures आपको together, like you have to get it from Google and put it on a word document. We started off with this because we thought कि अगर हमारे बच्चे एक vocation कर रहे हैं, तो why not something that will help teachers also? क्योंकि हम constantly stimuli create कर रहे हैं, If my child knows कि categorization कैसे करते हैं, animals क्या होते हैं, vehicles क्या होते हैं, then let's start having them find those pictures, put it on Word document and send it to a teacher. तो ये एक long chain of behavior भी हो गया, ये उनके skills को कहीं ना कहीं apply भी कर रहा है, and एक वो नया digital vocation भी सीख रहे हैं. Then some of our kids love cooking. That's a great one to explore. कि अगर they would like to cook for other people. Housekeeping skills are a big one. Lemon Tree is a big employer of neurodiverse individuals. So यहाँ पे housekeeping skills of cleaning as well as doing laundry, putting the sheets, things like that can start at home. Trainings can always start in home setup, and then you can have them explore outside hotel management spaces. And then finally, you have artsy work like playing the piano or just music or art. ये थोड़ा commission based हो जाता है because you are specifically learning how to, you're making specifically for someone, but it is a really nice way to put your work out there if you are a creative person and you like to do that. How do we start a vocational program? हमारे को एक job लेना है, उस job के around जितने skills हैं उसको बच्चे like for the client or for the learner expose करना है, as well as देखना है कि कितने interest हैं client के जो उस job में fit हो सकते हैं. Where these skills and interests intersect, that is our vocational space. तो हम constantly job profile करते रहेंगे बच्चे को कि okay, this is where he will thrive the most. So let's get started with skills. ABA concepts that we use when we are teaching skills to kids. These are the 4 concepts I'll cover in this space of skill acquisition, skill teaching. So let's start with, we'll do prompting, chaining, socially valid skills, as well as probe data. Prompting, I think हम सब familiar हैं इस concept के साथ, so I won't spend too much time here. But as you can see, there are many types of prompting. ये हमारा bread and butter है as teachers. जब हम एक instruction देते हैं और वो instruction follow होता है, उसके बीच में जितने भी steps हम बच्चे को help करते हैं, that is all called prompting. अब आप different levels पे कर सकते हो. You can do it on a more physical space to actually guide the child physically. या आप उसको दिखा के कर सकते हो, model करके, point करके कर सकते हो for skills जो उनको आते हैं but शायद करते करते they've forgotten or they've lost attention. So just to remind them, आप verbally prompt कर सकते हो कि अब अपना file save करो, अब file को name करो, या एक visual prompt दे सकते हैं. Like we had mentioned in the antecedent interventions about visual schedules. So the child knows कि एक बार ये task finish हो गया, next task is printing. एक बार printing is done, next task is typing. So give them a visual prompt. And finally, of course, we want them to be at independence. So one thing to note, again, most of you will know this, लेकिन जब हम कोई skill first time के लिए सिखा रहे हैं, we might move in the space of most to least prompt. We might start with more prompting and fade off. And a skill that the child already knows, उनको पता है, शायद maintained है, तो हम as little prompt से शुरू करेंगे. And जहाँ जहाँ हमें लगता है उन्हें थोड़े और prompts चाहिए, we can pick and choose which ones we want. The thing I want you to note here is, while मैंने इसको pyramid form में बनाया है, it's not necessary कि you have to move from one level to the next. All depends on your learner. हमारा learner visual है, सीधा visual prompt पे जाओ. हमारा learner needs some physical assistance, go by that. So depending on the learner, you pick up the prompt you want to do. Can you think of a skill जहाँ पे आपने prompt किया है skill और successfully fade भी किया है? Can I hear a few examples on prompting से आपने शुरू किया लेकिन उसको quickly fade करके independence पे ला पाए? You can say it out or you can type it in the chat. And it does not need to be a vocational skill. It can be any skill. Writing. So maybe you started by putting hand over hand and then धीरे धीरे आपने शायद सिर्फ partial prompt किया and then now the child is writing अपने आप. Great. Okay, good to know that I'm explaining it correctly. Any other skills that have been taught? and fade it successfully. Toilet training, lovely. Okay, so that is a big one. You have to prompt. तो आपने कौन सा prompting style use किया उसमें? Was it a visual schedule, or did you point and show them or talk to them? Knitting, wow, okay. All right. So long chains, I'm seeing that you guys are already working on long chains of behavior. कि knitting में भी आपको शायद सामान लाना है, knit करना है, फिर रखना है. Toilet training is a long chain, multiple steps. So to prompt them and then to fade them out is where we want our learner to be. Writing, coloring, counting, folding clothes, great vocational task also. Amazing. So the point I want to make here is prompt fading is just as important as prompting. The minute आप एक prompting system सोच लो कि मुझे ये use करना है, immediately आपके mind में आना चाहिए कि इसको मैं fade कैसे करूँ. Because with any learner, चाहे वो vocational हो or any learner, हमारा goal तो है कि वो independently वो चीज कर पाए. तो prompt हम देंगे as an assist, but we want to move away from it. All right, moving on to chaining. Now that we've kind of covered कि हम discrete behaviors कैसे सिखाते हैं, let's talk about long chains. Because in a vocational setup or an independent living setup or a natural any setup, हमारे को सिर्फ एक चीज करने को rarely बोला जाता है. It is often multiple small steps that make the big thing. Even अगर बोला जाए कि जाओ फैन का स्विच ऑन कर दो, I have to go to the switchboard, know कि फैन का स्विच कौन सा है और उसको ऑन करना है and check कि फैन ऑन हुआ कि नहीं. So every task has a slightly longer chain associated to it. So chaining is a way of teaching multiple step या complex skills. Many small skills are chained together to make a long or complex skill. So बहुत small discrete skills से एक लंबा chain बनता है. Why is this helpful for a practitioner? It helps us because ये हमारे को identify करने में मदद करता है कि which part of the chain needs prompt. अगर एक लंबा skill है और मैं इसको clearly define कर सकती हूँ और divide कर सकती हूँ कि इसमें 10 steps हैं, तो मेरे learner को mostly last 2 steps में help चाहिए. And this helps me be as hands-off as possible and allows the learner to be as independent as possible. So a great example of chaining is hand washing का एक task. बोलने को तो है कि wash your hands, one instruction. But उस one instruction में है कि water भी on करना है, फिर हाथ भी डाल के wet करना है, soap भी लेना है, scrub करना है soap को, फिर rinse करो, फिर पानी बंद करो और dry करो hands. Why this has become one long chain? Each step का completion is a signal for the next step to occur. ये बहुत important है for a chain. हम कोई random task लेके साथ में नहीं डाल रहे. It is an associated task. तो जब मैंने water on करने का behavior किया, it was reinforced because पानी निकला टैप में से. ये reinforcer अगले step के लिए एक signal बन गया कि अब पानी आ गया तो you can put your hands inside. Hands डालते ही मेरे behavior reinforce हुआ क्योंकि हाथ गीले हो गए. अब ये reinforcer next step का signal बन जाता है कि अच्छा हाथ गीले हो गए, ready for some soap क्योंकि hands are slippery now. And once I pump the soap निकलता है. सोप निकलना इज अ सिग्नल कि अब मैं स्क्रब कर सकती हूँ, वरना मैं स्क्रब करती तो कुछ झाग नहीं आती, तो अब मैं कर सकती हूँ. झाग आ गया, hands are soapy, it's a signal कि now I can again put my hands and rinse. Once the hands are clean, signal हो गया कि hands अब clean है, I can close the tap and finally I can dry my hands. So each step is linked to each other. One step का reinforcement becomes the next step का signal या जो हम बोलते हैं SD, but signal for the next step to occur. Chains are broken down using something called a task analysis. And ये आपके practice में आपको बहुत help करेगा if you have the skill of breaking down a larger skill into several small skills. आप visualize करो कि आपका बच्चा hand wash कैसे करता है and exactly वो steps लिखो, या shoelaces कैसे tie करता है and exactly वो steps लिखो, जिससे कि for your learner वो skill जो एक काफी लंबा skill है becomes easy and manageable to pick up. Each step in a task analysis is defined as a discrete behavior, जो आपने define करना सीखा था at the beginning of the seminar. Now you are defining multiple behaviors one after the other, और हर behavior next behavior से linked है. This is an example of a hand washing chain. एक side पे visuals है और एक side पे written है. So you can see कि each step is a discrete behavior. Turn on warm water, wet your hands. So you're doing one thing specifically in each instruction. Let's talk a little bit about the types of ways in which I can teach chaining. So I can teach it as a forward chain, which means कि I start with the first step. First step आपने सीख लिया अच्छे से कि turning on water, ये trial complete हो गया. Great. Now I'll move on to the next step of wetting hands. अब आपने ये step अच्छे से सीखा है, then we'll move on to the next step. So forward chaining. From the first step you start and you teach every step until the 9th, 10th, whatever number of steps जो आपके पास है. या तो आप कर सकते हो backward chaining, which means मैं आपको help करूंगी, पूरा hand wash routine हम साथ में करेंगे, मैं आपको guide करूंगी, prompt करूंगी. Last step जो है, in this case it says throw the paper towel in the trash. वो आप खुद करना, या वो एक teaching trial है. And as you have learned, जैसे आप वो वाला step learn कर लेते हो, then I will start teaching you the step of number 8. Turn off the water with the paper towel. Then when you have learned that, I will teach you dry your hands with paper towel. So what you are getting by doing backward chaining is, for kids who need more guidance, उनको practice मिल रहा है with the teacher's prompts for all the steps, and उनको independence मिल रहा है for steps that they are getting more and more comfortable with. और वो naturally आप fade कर सकते हो.
सिर्फ 2 सेकंड वो कैन प्ले
Because the chain has been created.
बाकियों को वो जल्दी क्या
So देखा आपका mic has come off, on. Yeah, thank you. Okay, third one is total task training. हमेशा ये नहीं होगा कि हमारा बच्चा last few steps में ही ठीक नहीं कर रहा या first few steps में ही ठीक नहीं कर रहा. Sometimes they know some of the steps, but they don't know some of the steps, और mixed है. तो शायद मेरे बच्चे को पानी on off करना तो अच्छे से आता है, and hands भी wash करना अच्छे से आता है, but soap लेना, scrub करना, towel से धोना, ये सब नहीं आता है. So you see some steps in the middle he knows, some steps in the middle they don't. If that is the case, तो हम एक total task training कर सकते हैं, which means कि मैं बच्चे को उन steps पे independence दूंगी जो उनको already आते हैं, and जहां जहां उनको help चाहिए, there I will go and prompt, least to most prompting. So I will allow them independence, but जहां नहीं हो रहा है, I can go in and prompt and guide a little. इससे very quickly I can know exactly which steps they are lacking. तो वहां पे teaching कर सकते हैं, and also कि मुझे ये steps में fade out करना है. So it gives me a mental note कि how I can get my child to independence is, if he knows steps 1, 4, 5, 6 and 9, I have to teach him steps 2, 3, 8. I hope I've gotten all of them. 7 and 8. ठीक है? So that gives me an idea कि मुझे exactly इस लंबे से chain में कौन से discrete behaviors हैं जो सिखाने हैं. Chaining of a longer task, हम कहाँ से शुरू कर सकते हैं? For those of us who have learners जो अभी भी discrete behaviors सीख रहे हैं, we can start with activities जो बच्चे ने इधर maintain कर ली हैं सीखकर, या तो उनका बहुत high interest है. तो एक maintain task का example लेते हैं. शायद उन्होंने टिक टैक टो गेम खेलना सीख लिया है आपके साथ. अब इसको एक long chain में कैसे convert करें? Maybe हमारे को पहले materials gather करने हैं, फिर हम एक peer को involve करें कि आओ मेरे साथ खेलो, या मैम को ही बोलें कि प्लीज आप मेरे साथ खेलो, फिर हम वो गेम खेलें जो हमें ऑलरेडी आती है. Then maybe हम फिर से खेलें, but you have to say it. You have to say I want to play again, and then you put the items back. तो ये एक longer chain हो गया for a task जो already maintained था. तो any task जो आप अभी काम कर रहे हो अपने बच्चे के साथ, if you find it to be socially valid, कि ये skill हम और बढ़ा सकते हैं, बच्चे का attention इस skill में sustain कर सकते हैं longer time के लिए, तो इसका आप एक chaining के through steps add कर सकते हो. But remember that each step has to be a signal to do the next step. So एक बार आपने material gather किए, फिर it becomes a signal कि friend को बुलाना है. Friend को बुला लिया तो अब खेलते हैं. अब खेल लिया एक बार तो एक और बार खेल लेते हैं. फिर उसके बाद you put the items back. Let's do another example with a leisure skill. A lot of our kids are YouTube babies, so they like getting on YouTube, watching videos. If that's the case, तो इसमें हम chaining कैसे, इसको longer chain कैसे बनाएं और sustained attention कैसे लाएं? Maybe they have to ask for the phone first कि अब मेरा काम हो गया, मुझे break चाहिए, मुझे phone चाहिए. एक functionally communicate करें. उस phone को फिर on करें, YouTube ढूंढे specifically वो video, so they have to do a little bit of navigating on their own. एक बार वो YouTube उन्होंने देख लिया है, maybe now you can add some problem solving कि बैटरी को थोड़ा कम ही रखो, बैटरी खत्म. So now you can add an extra chain through problem solving. You charge your phone, find your charger and charge your phone. So you can really play around with activities जो बच्चों को पसंद है, जो बच्चे already अच्छे से करते हैं. How can we make it into a longer chain? Because as they grow older, they will have to do work for slightly longer and longer duration without assistance. That being key. That is our goal, independence. Let's take an example of orange squash. One of my kiddos really liked orange squash. So we started off with, at home, they started off with just having him pour the squash and serving it to everyone. Then being able to mix whatever was made and then pour and then serve it to everyone and then he can have. And then to the point where now he's making it for everyone. So a backward chain kind of create हुई. For a task like laundry जो शायद इतनी exciting नहीं है, हमने एक forward chain किया. So child, once the laundry is done, signal आ गया कि it's done, take the clothes, put it in the bucket, take the bucket, go to the balcony and then dry the clothes. Each step becomes a signal कि next step करना है. And शायद कुछ tasks interesting होंगे like orange squash making, कुछ इतने interesting नहीं होंगे, तो उसके around we might have to create certain interests. So maybe after you're done with the laundry task, then you get to take a break. Like we had talked about antecedent interventions में एक small schedule बना देंगे. एक बार आपने long chain finish किया है, तो then you can do something more preferred for you. We've spoken about जब हम skills acquire कर रहे हैं तो उसको prompt कैसे करेंगे, उसको longer chains में कैसे create करेंगे. But we also have to make sure कि हम जो भी skills pick up कर रहे हैं, they are socially valid for our learners. For instance, and now I'll like to give some examples from the office space that we are working at. हमने शुरू किया था with a lot of word पे typing, data entry, Excel पे more typing, attendance list, presentations बनाते हुए taking pictures and putting them on. So it was fine because it's something to do with office. But once I saw कि वो maintain हो रहे हैं task and बच्चा सीधा जाके close equals cross and just get it out of the way. So then there was a chain opportunity that first you go to file, you go to save and save your work. So digitally they were starting to sort their work into a specific file with a specific name and mostly like the date of the day. So आज का date के साथ आप save कर सकते हो. So that became a very nice chain. जो task maintain हो रहे थे, उनको थोड़ा सा और elongate करना, and that way बच्चे को समझ आ रहा था कि this is what I did today, and I can always go back and see कि मैंने आज क्या-क्या काम किया. Because initially what was happening, they were doing all the work beautifully, and they were closing it and कुछ भी save नहीं हो रहा था. So I was not able to show them as a recollection कि आज आपने क्या-क्या किया. So this became a great way to create a chain as well as a communication opportunity with the children. Photocopying was a great skill as well for a hands-on task. There's a room for photocopying. The children go, they put their sign-in sheets, which finish every week. खत्म हो जाते हैं हमारे sign-in sheets. So we go, we put another one, we photocopy it, we bring it to the front desk. A note here is, अगर हम socially valid skills रख रहे हैं, I don't just want to teach the skill for the sake of teaching. ये नहीं कि आप एक blank paper लेकर जाओ, उसको photocopy करके ले आओ and side में रख देंगे. अगर जो वो photocopy कर रहे हैं या print कर रहे हैं, अगर वो उसको बाद में utilize कर सकते हैं, then they will actually be able to see where this long chain जो उन्होंने task किया है, जो इतना interesting नहीं था शायद, वो कहाँ use हो रहा है. And that also sometimes becomes a natural reinforcer to do it. कि अगर जब मैं ऑफिस आ रही हूँ मुझे साइन इन करना है and उस दिन को साइन इन शीट नहीं है, तो I have to go and photocopy and finish that task so that I can go and sign in and start my day. So एक naturally embedded reinforcer comes at the end of the task. And it becomes a socially valid goal. Making tea was another good one. We saw that our kids like taking breaks and going to the cafeteria, having some tea, but we kept it specific to cafeteria. They were not allowed to bring the tea back to the office space just because of like electronics and all that items also. But we thought कि this is a great space जहाँ पर ये socially valid skill है कि आप एक kitchen cafeteria space में ही चाय बना के बैठ के लोगों से बात कर सकते हो. And that's like a cue for that once I made my beverage, I can sit, I can drink, and I can talk about what did I do today. किस किस के साथ काम किया, क्या काम किया. This is a good space to take a break. So again, a socially valid skill taught in a specific setting. तो जब आप एक vocational space ढूंढोगे या उसको imitate करने की कोशिश करोगे, see what spaces can have which goals associated to them, जिससे कि वो और valid हों उस space में. My kiddo who really likes to eat chips and all, वो जाके colleagues से भी पूछता है to go get him chips. So many times they'll bring him because they really like interacting with him. So he'll ask me कि खोल दूं? So I'll be like, यहाँ तो नहीं खोल पाएंगे. So he'll be like, cafeteria में break लेते वक्त खोलेंगे. So he's understood and associated कि ये जो behavior है वो एक specific space में होगा. तो once we are done with work and it's time for break, then मैं इतने chips खाना है खा सकता हूँ. But अभी मैं collect करके जरूर रख सकता हूँ, but I can only eat it during cafeteria time. So it became a little bit more functional for the child. It became a little bit more functional for the space also. कि office space में हम काम करते समय बस chips नहीं खा सकते, but we can wait for it and eat it in a fun time. Okay, another thinking time. What are some other skills जो आप अपने practice में देखते हैं जो कि you find to be socially valid? Can you give me examples of socially valid skills in your practice? Again, you can type it in, you can say it out. तो सोशली वैलिड सोचते समय डू थिंक अबाउट स्किल क्या है और कौन से कॉन्टेक्स्ट में टीच हो रहा है. टू टेल अस अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट क्यों आपको लगता है कि ये स्किल सोशली बच्चे के लिए वैलिड है, और मे बी इट इज कि बच्चे का एज रेंज ऐसा है दैट इट बिकम्स सोशली वैलिड. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है, तो आई विल वेट टू हियर फ्रॉम समबडी. ग्रीटिंग, ओके, कैन यू गिव अ लिटिल बिट मोर ओवर हियर? ग्रीटिंग वेयर? Because I have a child, say hi Tata, yeah. So I have a child who will greet, but एक बार उसने greeting कर दी, every time he sees the person he will greet them, and that may not always be socially valid. Sometimes it's like तुमने पहली बार hi बोला, second time maybe you're like how is your day going or something new, right? So the context really helps make something socially valid.
Not speaking loudly.
In what context?
Maybe in the classroom situation, you know,
Yeah.
when they are in, especially in our school, it's inclusion. So when they shout and all, it is very inappropriate. So that is very important that they should not, keep their voice down,
Right.
not to just shout anytime, you know.
Right. So instead of saying not shouting, which may not be a behavior, because not doing something we can't say, but you can say keep your volume down, being
Down,
an appropriate behavior for classroom, right? So then being either raising your hand before speaking or keeping your volume down becomes a socially valid goal for classroom. Great. 10 years old using toilet independently is a really nice socially valid goal. कि आप खुद जाके, या तो आपको पता है कि आपको बाथरूम आ रहा है आप खुद जाओ, या तो आप किसी को बता के जाओ, तो ये बहुत सोशली वैलिड है. करेक्ट. एज यू ग्रो ओल्डर यू मे नॉट नीड परमिशन सो मच ऑल्सो, राइट? सो 10 years old around there you want to take permission. I think someone's hand is raised or was raised. Waiting for turn, waiting to get into a lift or inside the room, letting the inside people come out first and then going inside. Correct. So for a lift or a room, you may want to let people clear out before aap jao. For a classroom, maybe you need to get it first because अंदर कोई होगा नहीं. So depending on the context, ये चीज socially valid हो सकती है कि आप पहले wait करो फिर अंदर जाओ. Right. Great. Nice. I like कि आप लोग context भी define कर रहे हो कि ये socially valid इसलिए है because बच्चा 10 साल का है, या because you're waiting for a lift, या because oops, I've forgotten the first one. Because you're in a classroom setting and you want to keep your volume low. Great. So socially valid has a lot to do with the child's age और उनका immediate context क्या है. Great. Okay. Last bit of skill acquisition. जब हम skills सिखा रहे हैं, I want to talk about probe data. हमने सेमिनार में I think data collection के बारे में बात करी है, and ABA is generally known for a lot of data collection. And while that is true, it is not the case कि हमारे को हर skill के लिए detailed data लेना जरूरी है. It is always the case that I would rather have accurate data than a lot of data, which is maybe not accurate, क्योंकि हमारे पास इतने eyes नहीं है to see 30 students at the same time, or we can't have so many hands to be taking data on 2 kids or 3 kids simultaneously. तो अगर वो करने पर inaccuracy होती है, तो rather we would take smaller instances of data, probe that data so that we get at least accurate information, even if it is at more further intervals. कि रोज हर skill का नहीं तो every once in a while we are taking data, but it's accurate data. So let's talk a little about probe data. So this is data that is taken once in a while, या तो एक pre-decided schedule पे कि मैं हर Monday after the weekend I'll take probe data, या हर alternate week I'll take probe data, or once in a while you can take it that today is my probe data day, कि मैं इस बच्चे का ये skill probe करूंगी. And you take this data for the first instance of behavior for that day. Why do you think that is? ये क्यों help करेगा कि हम first instance of behavior का data लें जब हम probe कर रहे हैं? Yes.
Ma'am, so that we know that the child has achieved it independently and it goes without the prompt, so that we can put either yes or no.
Correct. So हमारा कोई learning history नहीं है at this point. Sorry. हाँ, हमारा कोई learning history नहीं है. We know exactly that the child has done it independently, and ये indicate करेगा कहीं ना कहीं कि जो बच्चा जो हमने skill सिखाया था either one day before or a weekend ago or 1 week ago is still with the child, and they have picked it up without having any immediate prompting that has been done to it. Great. So that's your probe data. One quick instance of a probe data sheet, although आप किसी भी तरीके से ले सकते हैं that you like. You can basically just list out कि आपका behavior objective क्या है. तो अगर printing है तो you might just say printing, and targets में आप हर एक target लिखें, जैसे कि document को printer पे भेजना, फिर printing room जाना, फिर printer से print out उठाना. This is if you are at the initial stages of your chaining. You want to know exactly which step the child is able to do and exactly which step they are not able to do. As your child learns कि printing समझ आ गई है उनको, but अब वो maintenance पे चला गया है, you may not even list कि printing का हर एक step. आप शायद अपना behavioral objective कर दे office work and target list में सीधा लिख दे printing. तो today उसने printing किया या नहीं किया. I just want to get a yes or no. आपको दिखेगा कि we're basically taking very crude data, yes, no, plus, minus. We are not getting, हमारा जो microscope है data का, वो बहुत fine नहीं है. It is rather large. हमें एक overall perspective मिल रहा है. But the good thing about probe data is कि when you're working with multiple kids, or when you're working in a setting जहाँ पर आपके eyes multiple rooms में नहीं हो सकते, तो you can always manage in a way that आपको कहीं ना कहीं प्रोग्रेस का समझ आ रहा है, एज वेल एज आप नोट डाउन के प्रैक्टिस में आ गए हो कि आप नोट डाउन करो कि प्रोग्रेस कैसा चल रहा है बच्चे का. सो दैट इज वेयर प्रोब डेटा इज हेल्पफुल. एनी क्वेश्चंस अबाउट दिस काइंड ऑफ डेटा टेकिंग, or are people already using this kind of data taking? It's not too different from what you've already learned, but definitely it is a little bit more broad, and थोड़ा सा आपके learner पे depend करता है कि आपको इसको कितना broad या कितना specific रखना है. All right. Before we move on to the interest side of it, any questions about ये skills का teaching, chaining behaviors, socially valid goals pick up करना? Any questions about what we have covered? Okay, and I'm going to move on into interests का side. तो हमने skills सिखा दिए हैं बच्चों को, और we have some tools to teach the kiddos skills about vocational training, longer and longer chains. अब टाइम है टू पिक अप की इंटरेस्ट क्या है बच्चों के, व्हाट आर द स्पेसेस वेयर द इंटर्न्स और द एम्प्लॉइज माइट बी मोर इंक्लाइंड टुवर्ड्स वर्किंग. इसमें ABA कॉन्सेप्ट जो हम कवर करेंगे आर पेयरिंग, स्ट्रेंथ बेस्ड ट्रेनिंग, delaying of reinforcer, क्योंकि अब it's time the kids can wait a little longer and do a little bit more work to get this reinforcer that they enjoy. And finally, behavior management. So these are coming back to the concepts that you have already covered in the last couple of days. The first one is pairing. So pairing is essentially like rapport building, but in a vocational space, आपको चाहिए कि वो environment भी बच्चे के लिए, बच्चे के साथ एक rapport build करे. So the first couple of days जब आप जाएंगे to your new vocational space या any new space, even if it's a social setting of going to a party of somebody else's place, you may want to give a little bit of time कि बच्चा बस environment में घूमे, they get familiar with the spaces. So the first day we just allowed the kids to roam around, play a little bit with the computers, printers, whatever, but कोई particular demand नहीं डाला. It's also nice अगर पहले से ये environments थोड़े से accessible हो सकते हैं. तो हमने जो बात करी थी visual prompts की, we can add these here. कि जैसे staff room का usually कोई side होता है. Similarly for bathrooms, for printing room, for meeting room, अगर ऐसे signs लग जाए तो बच्चों के लिए भी it'll be easier to know कि which room is associated to what work. I think sensitivity training is very important in a vocational program. This is sensitivity of your own clients कि आप एक new space में हैं, जो colleagues हैं जिनके साथ वो काम कर रहे हैं, जो staff है, तो front desk staff है या cleaning crew है, as well as of course the boss. They should all be sensitized and encouraged कि वो communicate करें हमारे साथ जब हम office में roam around कर रहे हैं. And again, I would say कि ये ज़रूरी, again, it's not only vocational spaces. कहीं भी आप community में बाहर step out कर रहे हैं, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to introduce some amount of sensitivity training, just familiarizing people with who are your kids, what are we doing here, talking a little bit about their strengths, कि what do they bring to the job over here. And that's a really nice way to just start conversation about what is it that they do well, what is it that they are learning in this space. So my child is really good at organizing spaces. So we are working a lot on organizing cafeteria, organizing clerical space, but we need help with the digitized spaces, and that's why we are in this office to learn about it. Another child, he's really social. He enjoys being in the office environment. He likes talking to people. That is where he's really nice and fluent and good at. He's also very good with repetitive tasks, list banana, कहीं पे data entry करना, great. But जब हमारे को hands-on task करना होता है, like a printing or a photocopying or going to the cafeteria and making tea, these are the things we want to work on, कि वो ज़्यादा distract ना हो. He can even, any kind of task जहाँ पे movement needed है, we are here to learn that. So we just open a conversation, telling them a little bit about our children and telling them a little bit about what they're learning. So the staff also becomes sensitive to the needs of the children, so that they know कि वो आके मुझसे बात तो करेगा, but if I ever see him around the printer, I can always ask him if he needs some help, because that's the space where he needs a little extra support. And you can have fun with this. So once we just had like a party, and we called a couple of the staff members जिसके साथ, they had started coming into the cafeteria and asking us कि, what are your kids doing here? What is this program all about? So there were 3 to 4 staff members जो आते थे actively to talk to our children, or our kids would go and talk to them. So we had a party and it was an open invite, but these are the staff members who ended up coming. And the great thing was कि you're pairing all these people with fun things like food and snacks and everything that the children like. और ये बहुत socially valid है क्योंकि हम cafeteria में कर रहे हैं जहाँ anyway break लेकर बातें करी जाती है. So that's a good space to introduce within the vocational space, having fun with it. Okay, so after pairing, now the child is getting comfortable in the environment. वो space को समझ गए हैं, वो colleagues को समझ गए हैं, वो कहीं ना कहीं work schedule भी समझ रहे हैं. इस work schedule में अगर हम strengths based training करें, वो tasks डालें that are of the child's interest, that will really set our children up for success. So tap in on their motivation. Start with tasks जो उनके लिए either familiar है या उनके interest के basis पे है, and then expand their interest from there. So when I started with my kids in the physical space, in this office space, I used all the stimuli जो हम लोग digitally virtual sessions में कर रहे थे. तो वही stimuli लाके we started working here first. Then we expanded from there. तो अगर उस stimuli में we were copying and pasting and putting it on to a PowerPoint presentation, we were now doing the same thing without digital prompts. Then we started doing, like I showed you, saving the file, labeling it, titling the file, expanding the interest from there, or expanding on the skill and making it more and more complex. So as an example, this is not particularly vocation related, but it might be of interest to practitioners, because they're working with kids जिनके restricted interests है. So how do we expand interests? अगर मेरे बच्चे को nachos के chips पसंद है, maybe we can expand to making a nachos ka pura plate with all the tomato, pyaz, cheese, everything. If they're enjoying assembling items, maybe they can start making the dip for the nachos. Then if they're liking the dip, they can put some similar spreads into sandwiches. If they're liking that sandwich and making of the, again, cooking, cold cooking, so we can try making something completely different like jello. So we start with one interest and we try to see in what areas we can build on it so that it moves away from that interest. Similarly, let's take, now the child is enjoying the nachos wala part. Rest of it, not so much, but nachos making, he's liking it. Great. We can try different khana. Similar concept, but let's try hot cooking now, Maggie. Or let's move on to baking. Assembling items इसमें भी है, लेकिन हमारे ingredients completely change हो गए. अगर हमारे को food के साथ इतना मजा नहीं आ रहा है, तो let's do assembling actual items and start playing puzzles as a leisure activity. And अगर हमारे को assembling or putting things, sorting them, these are the things we like to do, we might move on to sorting our own clothes cabinet, or like I said, going to a store and doing the sorting of the clothes वहाँ पर. So this is just to show an example of taking an interest, seeing कि इस interest में exactly क्या है जो बच्चे को अच्छा लग रहा है, and then expand from there. So if they're liking the food part of it, keep it to food. If they're liking the assembling part of it, move it away. There are so many things जो हम assemble करते हैं in our lives, putting our bags together at the beginning of the day, putting our food together as well, putting the table together before dinner time, all of that. So we'll bring it back to a vocational lens. Now, my first learner, he enjoys repetitive tasks, but specifically people related. मुझे लोगों के नाम, like लोगों से बात करना अच्छा लगता है, लोगों के नाम अच्छे लगते हैं. So we started doing attendance taking. So the names are there. You have to write them down. Then you have to look around the office and mark 1 for those who are there and 0 for those who are not there. So we started off with something he liked, कि लोगों के नाम है, list करना है, एक repetitive task है. Then we added an element कि जो यहाँ पर है, उन पे 1 mark and जो नहीं है 0. Great. He started doing this very well. So repetitive भी था, application भी था. Now we expanded it. Like I said, you can always have him save the file. That's a great way to expand the task. As well as graph वाला icon निकालो, अपना सारा data select करो, graph पे click करो, generate a graph. कि ये visually भी आप देख सकते हो कि exactly कौन से लोग यहाँ हैं और कौन से आज नहीं हैं. अगर आप ये भी अच्छा कर रहे हो, तो जो नीचे sheet का button है, let's add another sheet and do a new task in the same file. तो same task को हम different directions में expand कर सकते हैं. And then we'll see what is it the child likes to do. अगर उसको saving पर ही अच्छा लग रहा है, maybe he's just a child who likes to sort things into spaces. If he's liking that visual part of it, जहाँ पर मैं graphs create कर रहा हूँ, great information for me. I think then he can create more graphs in different kinds of, with different information. अगर उसको Excel का work generally पसंद आ रहा है, let's see how many sheets he can create. And let's make him label it also, कि इस sheet में task क्या था? Look at the big picture. It's an attendance task. So इस sheet का title is attendance. अब next sheet में कोई different activity करेंगे and you will tell me the title for that sheet. So making an interest into a larger task. Second learner really likes and organizing things, like I said. So initially we had a lot of worksheets we would do. Where are you? What are you doing? What is your office name? What is your name? What is the day to day? Like multiple things that we would basically write, type, print, all these clerical things that we were doing. So he started organizing them into his folders. So just starting off with putting the similar worksheets in the similar folders or similar space. Then organizing your folders and putting them away. And then once clerically we were kind of exhausting of how many things we can organize, we moved into the cafeteria. And now you organize the food in this cafeteria. So starting to understand slowly, by exposing him to as many skills in the job space as possible, I was getting a sense that, okay, organizing skills is probably going to be his vocational task. So just getting a sense of how many ways I can expose him to it and see how many of those he'll do to gauge कि उसका interest कितना है उसमें. But one thing to be aware, and this is a big one, कि task cannot only be reinforcing. One of the learners who like to talk to people. So I thought, okay, maybe delivering messages will be a good skill for him. कि अगर यहाँ पर कंप्यूटर खराब हो गया तो आप IT सर को जाके बोलो कि I need help, और कंप्यूटर खराब हो गया या इंटरनेट बंद हो गया. So delivering a message and coming back. But what ended up happening was, in going to IT sir, there are 5 other colleagues that come on the way. So hello Aditya sir, hello Arun sir, hello Nisha ma'am, everybody, one after the other, and lots of chatting is happening. So जब तक हम IT sir के पास जा रहे हैं और वापस आ रहे हैं, that 2-minute task has become a 20-minute task. So what I thought would be a reinforcing activity that we can make into an interest into a vocation was actually something that you have to just step back and be like, maybe this is just an interest. Maybe talking to people has to be a break time activity. क्योंकि वो इतना interesting है कि फिर काम भूल जाते हैं. So the task cannot only be reinforcing. Whereas for my other child who really likes organizing, it started off by me noticing that if we are working, he will suddenly get up, go zip my bag. He will suddenly get up and put the files, wherever he needs them to be. And it was somewhere a way for him to express that the work is becoming too much, and it was an escape as well as a way to calm himself down through doing some kind of activity which was automatically reinforcing to himself, just putting things away in the right space. So then we channelized that and said, ki if you're clearly getting a little flustered by the digital work, then after every small digital task, let's do an organizing task. So that as your schedule flows, you are doing something that's not maybe so interesting, but it is immediately or naturally followed by something that is interesting. Because digital task में अगर आप कुछ print कर रहे हो, then you might want to go and file that and then organize that space. अगर digital task में लिखा है कि next is cafeteria, then we'll go there and we'll do some more putting inventory away in the required space. So some interests can be channelized into work, but be aware that not all interests will be channelized. And that's okay. It's perfectly fine. कुछ चीजें hobbies ही रहेंगी, कुछ चीजें interests ही रहेंगी. We don't want to make everything into work. But it is important to expand interest nonetheless. So like we talked about the nachos options, from those kind of interests to interest of making lists or repetitive tasks. Let's expand those interests. Keep trying to see where all you can take the child. And then finally, keeping it socially valid. That we are not just introducing organizing for the sake of organizing. कि आप जाके किसी और का desk जाके organize करो, which means nothing to the child. वो कर तो देगा because उसका interest है. But at the end of the day, अगर वो उसका space नहीं है या immediate environment नहीं है, he's not really seeing the result of his work. A cafeteria है जहाँ वो at least जाता तो है once a day. He knows what the work means. If I put these items in the right space, meaning I can go and get them from that space later as well. So again, keeping it socially valid. So a thinking time that I've put in here is, if you at all resonated, आपके साथ कहीं पर ये हुआ है कि कोई reinforcing task इतना reinforcing था कि हमारा skill miss out हो गया. The child got too engrossed in the reinforcement कि हम skill नहीं कर पाए. Any thoughts or examples of these? Basically saying कि any reinforcer जो आपके skill acquisition या skill teaching में interfere कर रहा है. Like if your child likes to eat certain edibles and earn certain edibles, वो edibles का छीन लेना actually ends up causing more behaviors. So at the end of the day, you end up giving not pieces of edibles, but the whole thing in a bigger task, you know? So we don't want कि कोई reinforcer skill के acquisition को hinder करे, essentially. Because while reinforcers are great, they can have a drawback also. Screen time, yeah. Screen time is a good one कि जब हम screen time ले लेते हैं, while it is reinforcing, and screen time is actually a really nice example कि couple of times we try to teach our kids कि screen पे आप और क्या-क्या कर सकते हो. But because our kids are so good with the screen, they know exactly where their application is. वो वहाँ से cross out करके वापस अपने application में आके अपना thank you, वो अपना game वापस खेल सकते हो. So the reinforcer को अगर जब हम expand करने जाते हैं, it actually backfires on us कि नहीं मुझे वो चीज तो करनी ही नहीं है. Don't make it into work now. So ये tab मेरा सिर्फ games का tab है. That also becomes a thing. This is only my games tab. Don't make me do WhatsApp and communication and all that on this tab. Right? Great. Nice example. So yeah. So try to keep a lookout for reinforcing activities that are too reinforcing. Then we don't want to make it into work. फिर वो शायद as a reinforcer ही best है. Okay. Now moving on to delayed reinforcement. This is extremely important, and I am saying this not just in the context of vocational skills. I will say this for pretty much all of your work, even as when you're teaching younger kids, when you're at the stage where you're giving praise after every work that they do, or you're at the stage where we're giving chocolates or chips after every work that you do. We do that. वो 1:1 reinforcer की एक काम एक reinforcer. शुरू में it's very nice because you teach the expectation कि ये हमें this is the work I'm expecting you to do. But quickly you want to make it a delayed reinforcer. You want कि बच्चा फिर कोई pattern ना pick up करे कि मैं अब हर बार जब ये काम करूंगी तो मुझे reinforcer मिलेगा ही मिलेगा. That creates another kind of inflexibility. So I would say that the minute you see कि बच्चे को expectation समझ आ गया है कि काम करने पर मुझे कुछ पसंदीदार या reinforcing मिलता है, great. Let's make it into a token system. Let's make it into a delay of some kind so that they're not expecting it after every work. So how are some of the ways that you can delay? You can create a visual schedule. ये हमने I think throughout the seminar बात करी है. In our vocational space also, for one of my learners who's more of a visual learner, हमने pictures डाले हैं of him actually doing certain activities. और फिर मैं वो pictures each day I just scramble them up depending on what order I want him to go in. So he'll look at the picture, he'll go do the activity. Activity done हो गई तो फिर insert में जाके एक shape add कर दो. He adds stars. He can add pretty much anything. But it gives him a chance to see कि अच्छा ये दो activities finish हो गई हैं. Next is cafeteria, next is printing. So he gets a big picture of what he's doing. And at the end of everything, we get to go home. Or after these two activities, we get to go to cafeteria. ये दोनों ही चीजें उसके लिए reinforcing है. तो putting these reinforcers intermittently through your schedule. Not every child will be able to finish पूरा schedule just to access reinforcer. तो आप उसको बीच-बीच में भी डालना जिससे कि बच्चे को समझ आए कि ठीक है, few tasks हैं, उसके बाद कुछ fun आने वाला है. So एक predictability create हो जाती है. You can always do a token system. Although for vocational learners, I think ये slowly fade हो जाना चाहिए to like maybe a point system. But you can start at a token system अगर वो उस system से ज़्यादा comfortable है कि हर task के लिए आपको एक token मिल रहा है और फिर 5 या 10 tokens collect करने के बाद आप उसको cash in कर सकते हो and you can go have a free time or a break time. Point system is what I like for our kids who are a little bit more understanding of numbers as well as addition. So they know कि हर number का एक value है और जब ये value add up होता है to 10, 20 or 30 or 40, then I get to cash it in for something that I like. Keep your reinforcement delayed, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं उसमें एक predictable system होना चाहिए. What I mean by that is, like all of us, we do our work and we get paid at the end of the month. तो एक डिले है हमारे रीइंफोर्समेंट में, बट हमें पता है कि हमारा सैलरी बिटवीन लाइक 30th and 5th आ जाएगी, राइट? सो इट्स अ प्रिडिक्टेबल सिस्टम. अगर कोई मुझे बोले कि यू डू योर वर्क एंड देन like after 30 days you'll get your salary, so you'll get it at the 30th day, you may get it at the 35th day, you may get it at the 45th day. What will end up happening is the reinforcement schedule is so thin, it's so unpredictable कि मैं काम तो उतना ही कर रही हूँ, बट reinforcement कब मिल रहा है समझ नहीं आ रहा है, that काम का motivation decrease हो जाएगा. You may not want to stay in that job. Just by me explaining this concept कि you may get paid at the 30th day or the 45th day, may be like, nahi, ye shayad job is not for me, right? So similarly, while we are putting a delay for our children, we do want them to work for a longer period of time. We do also want them to have some amount of understanding कि ये काम हम क्यों कर रहे हैं. At the end of this work, we probably get a little bit of a break or a little bit of something that I like. So for one of my learners, he has a point system. He comes in, he has to do the work that is listed. Then we do a little writing कि इस work में हमने क्या किया. तो maybe in his choice, he goes to the cafeteria to drink water. So he writes that down. But maybe he doesn't get points for his own choice. For open email, he'll write down what he did, and then he'll get 2 points. What are the 2 points? 1 point is for finishing the work. 1 point is for hands to self and listening to the teacher. So basically managing those behaviors, because otherwise our hands become inappropriately grabbing. So when he gets both points, great. There are times, of course, when he is not getting both points. So फिर उसको naturally consequence मिलता है कि then you're not earning as many points as you could have for the day. And what are we doing with these points? That is also important. तो अगर आज हमने 7 points earn करे हैं, we need to earn 40 points, and then we get to go buy kurkure because we love kurkure. So it's something he can keep in his mind as something to look forward to. Like we look forward to our salary because salary say I'm going to pay my rent, I'm going to get my groceries, as well as I really need to go shopping this weekend for the winter season, which is very far away. So maybe it's summer season. Okay. So basically, so he knows that I'm collecting these points so I can cash it in for something, and I'm looking forward to it. Great thing about stepping out of the office is it gives us a space कि अब आप कुरकुरे खरीद रहे हो, money भी manage करेंगे. I have him pay with his Paytm as well, or rather my Paytm, but he pays it. So he understands the concept of scanning it, putting that exact amount, and then getting whatever he has earned. तो वहाँ एक interaction भी होता है, एक बहुत long chain create होता है, and we're adding skills to the reinforcer as well. कि आप from start to finish you are aware of your work is bringing you kurkure, but how are you getting kurkure? You know that as well. How are you putting that money and making the exchange with shopkeeper? So point systems are really nice for kiddos who are now starting to understand the math and money management. All right, we're on to behavior management. This is the last of the interest spaces. Behavior management does not go anywhere. चाहे आप जितने बड़े हो जाओ, it still stays with you. You have to manage your behaviors. Even today, if you tell me I am not like always calm, of course not. There are days where I will snap. There are days where I need to calm down myself because I'm flustered about something or the other. So everybody has to have their own management styles. And सब धीरे-धीरे सीख जाते हैं कि हमारा management style क्या है. Maybe I go home and cry. That is my way of exerting all of that pent up anger. Because so many things happened as an antecedent that built up for the day. The car washing guy didn't come. Then my petrol was khatam. Then I went to get the petrol. There seemed to be a slow puncture in my gadi. I was late for work. So it's a build up that leads to an outburst of behaviors. And therefore, then you have a consequence related to it. Yeah, so you have to remove yourself from that space, or you have to somehow get yourself to relax while you're in a space where maybe there are a lot of people, so that you can deal with this behavior a little later. So behavior management essentially does not go anywhere in your life. वो हमेशा रहेगा. So हमारे vocational kiddos के लिए भी we want to think about behavior management. Behavior management का very pertinent point जो हमने आज ही करा है in our lecture with Priyanka Sethi was functional communication training. The very first functional communication training you should have your child learn, whether they're stepping out into a vocational space or pretty much anywhere outside into a new space, is to be able to ask for a break, to be able to say कि मुझे break चाहिए, to be able to say कि मुझे वहाँ नहीं जाना है, to be able to say कि अभी wait करो. Whatever it is that they need to communicate, or just be able to, if they are non-vocal, then just be able to stay and just give you a gesture saying that I need some space and a break. So that's the very first, very quick functional communication that your child should have when they're stepping out into the environment. Something as your children are growing older, start having them practice it in different environments. When you're in the environment, as well as when they ask for breaks, see where they are going. Are they going to the cafeteria to take a break? Are they going to the bathroom to take a break? Are they just walking around the office to take a break? It gives you a sense of what is their calming space. What are the spaces here that they are actually feeling calm in? As well as अगर वो किसी item या stimuli के साथ interact कर रहे हैं, great. These may be their calming stimuli. So for one of my learners, tearing paper was a calming activity for him, at least in the beginning when we started. And it was difficult because in an office space, you cannot go around tearing all the papers. So we had a specific basket for him where he could tear like scrap paper that we only had no more use for from our work. So that became his calming stimuli. And that became a space jahan pe he would ask for a break, go tear the paper, and either then or at the end of the day, he can go throw it in the dustbin also. So a chain of reinforcing behavior ban gaya ki I can engage in this activity, calms me down, then I can come back and now start working. So functional communication training will really be naturalized here when you're doing behavior management. कि आपने antecedently pairing करके space के साथ, people के साथ rapport तो build कर लिया. आपने अपने task भी बहुत ही valid and socially sound रखे. But if all of this still fails, the child feels overwhelmed, you need to give them spaces to ask for break and create actual physical spaces where they can go and take a break. We have a social time. At one point, we all just sit together and we talk about what all we have done up until now and what all we had for breakfast, just having a chit chat basically. And one of my learners who got very overwhelmed, initially I saw that he would just roll away and put his head on the wall for 5-10 seconds, then he would come back. So it became his way to just step out of the conversation and come back in when it became too overwhelming for him. Too many people are talking or not enough chat is going on with him because there are two learners that we are dividing attention. So it was somewhat appropriate, but you have to ask. So then we just added the element of 1 minute. Give me a minute. So you go away, do your thing, come back. So it can be rude if you do it without asking or without letting people know, but this was a place for us to add functional communication. Ki I'm break. Go take a break, come back. And he was back in the conversation. All right. So that was it about skills, accessing multiple skills, and seeing how many interests our children have in the space. Why we are doing this, why are we exposing them to so many different types of skills and interests, is that we can find that space jahan skills and interests intersect karte. Yahan par hamara job profiling hoga. This is where we'll understand ki what is it that they might be good at, what is the vocation for them going forward. So let's go through a couple of examples. So here we're trying to, of course, skills, interest, we've exposed them, we are trying to find the commonality. So for instance, अगर interest है assembling items, like we talked about, ये एक skill है जो हम school में या discreetly in therapy center सीख चुके हैं, of assembling items, maybe through puzzles, maybe through other toys, maybe through actually taking these mechanic wale toys and putting them together. So we like it. So now we tried all types of skills around this interest. So we've tried cooking, we've tried handicrafts, so putting items together. We've tried filing, putting papers together. We've tried home repairs, so putting actual furniture or other repairing work together. But if you can see, कि cooking and filing का circle सबसे ज़्यादा overlap करता है. How will you know this? बच्चा उसमें interest ले रहा है. What that means is they do it more willingly, which means if I say it's cooking time, they are much faster to come in there and have not so resistant attitude. They are very willing to be in that space. They cook for, they finish the task easily, and maybe they even show interest in wanting to continue the task. So these are the ways in which we can gauge if there's interest or not in this space. So you can see that this particular learner is interested in cooking. They're interested in filing also. They like putting sheets together, even though very different profiles. But here we can maybe start job profiling them. So if they like cooking, then if that is their vocation, then we can create a space where jitne bhi recipes hain, they are being printed out and filed into a space so that whenever they want to go cooking, they can find the recipe they want and start cooking. And every couple of days or every week, they maybe find a new recipe so that they can learn that as well. So then this becomes a nice way to integrate all their interests as well as different skills into one space. And if they're not really reading yet, and maybe they're just doing like visual. So once they're done cooking, you take a picture of it, print it out, and then file it. So they have a copy of every single thing they have made, and then they can again go back independently, pick up their file, pick up the food they want to make for the day, and remember the instructions and do it. Or with a video model, look at that particular video and do it. All right. So let me show you another one. Here I want you guys to participate and see what you think could be a good job profile for this particular child. So this learner likes typing. वो हम आराम से करते हैं, किसी भी फॉर्म में कर सकते हैं. डेटा एंट्री हमने ट्राई किया है, अटेंडेंस टेकिंग हमने ट्राई किया है, लिस्ट बनाना हमने ट्राई किया है कि पुट दीज इन डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज, इंस्ट्रक्शंस शीट्स टाइप करना और टीचर्स के डेटा शीट्स या उनके इंस्ट्रक्शन लेसन प्लान्स टाइप करना, ये भी ट्राई किया है. Of all of these, the child is showing interest in data entry as well as attendance taking. Not so much making lists, not so much typing instruction sheets. So not thinking about, just wanting to type from what he already sees. What do you think are some vocations they can look into? डेटा एंट्री के साथ और क्या किया जा सकता है, अटेंडेंस टेकिंग के साथ क्या किया जा सकता है? If he likes to put down the names of people into lists. If you do this in your work, where do you use data entry? Where do you use attendance taking? Think about it. There are only 2 slides of these. So let's get Thuasa chatting about it so that we understand the concept of job profiling. Staff attendance. So this is a school situation, I'm assuming. So school mein hum attendance taking kar sakte hain. That's a good vocational space. So you can be a help around the school. Big bazaar. Inventory keeping is a great one. कि आप data entry आपको पसंद है तो आपको exactly देखना है कि label पे क्या लिखा है and exactly वही चीज वापस type कर देनी है. So you can keep inventory. Big bazaar, grocery stores. Again, inventory can be kept there. Housekeeping में you can keep inventory as well as making sure, like seeing which rooms are occupied. So you can take some kind of an attendance form as well. Great. So getting an idea of skills and interests अगर match कर रहे हैं, then you can pick up कि कहाँ ये skills use हो सकते हैं. Let's do one more. Stationery. Yeah, great. Inventory as well. Great. Awesome. If my child has, like, he's interested in those kind of tasks जिसमें movement associated है. It's a more physically moving kind of a child. So maybe I've tried delivering mail and messages. Maybe I've tried handling inventory की यहाँ से जो स्टोर रूम से है उसको स्टोर में लाना, मेन स्टोर में, या अगर कुछ ट्रक में आया है तो handling it and putting it in the storeroom, sorting and stacking that stuff, as well as housekeeping. So again, movement related tasks, ki going in a hotel and putting things away. What do you think are spaces that this child can get into? Because usko movement pasand hai, and abhi tak he has shown interest in something like housekeeping, something like sorting and stacking. It's okay if they are repetitive. I know थोड़े से similar है दोनों examples. Or you can tell me what are some other spaces that you can try, skills that you can try for your child who likes movement, who likes to move around. What are other skills you can introduce them to? Warehouse stocking, courier is a good one. So again, delivering mails and messages, great. Working in a restaurant is a really nice one. So taking people's order or giving them their order, cleaning up the tables. Grocery store has a lot of, you have to be on your feet. In a cafe is a really nice one as well. So serving people. Uh, and then if I tell you that they don't like to interact with people so much, but they like movement, so you may give them something which is a little bit more to do with the kitchen area of the cafe. So slowly you can profile the child into understanding what they might like. And if they like being with the people, then maybe they are in the restaurant working and taking orders, in the cafe taking orders. If they don't like it so much, then maybe they are behind the cashier, maybe they are even behind in the kitchen doing the work that needs more physical movement. Keeping books back in the library is a great one. If you're not so much into interacting with people, but you have good sorting skills, you like to move around and work. Packing in apparel store, great. So clothes रखना, even though you might have to talk to people there, but शायद अगर उनके storage space में रखना हो, तो that is also a space where you don't have to interact so much with people. Great. So you can see that we have to look at their interests. We have to try as many skills in that area as possible. And that will give us an idea ki, okay, housekeeping, maybe they're doing well. Sorting, stacking, they're doing well because there's not needed to interact with people. But delivering messages, not so much because they're not really with the people so much. They'd rather be doing the work in the back end. So kind of managing the inventory part. Or vice versa. They may really enjoy interacting with people. They may really enjoy moving to larger spaces. So delivering messages may be just the thing because then they can actually move from house to house if that is the case. So depending on their interest, we really want to try different skills to observe कि कौन सा part है इस skill का that they are enjoying. And then we can slowly start profiling them closer and closer. Yeah. So I'll wrap it up here and open it up to questions about anything in the presentation or just generally regarding learners who are learning discrete behaviors and you want them to learn longer and longer tasks. Sorry. I know we moved away from like talking about behaviors or behavior reduction rather. It was more about skill acquisition. But hopefully as you're putting more goals for your children, you're thinking more about socially valid goals के longer and longer chains हो सके so that child is naturally delaying reinforcer कि पूरा task खत्म करेंगे तभी reinforcer मिलेगा, right? तभी break मिलेगा या तभी we'll go and do the other next activity which is more fun. All right. Thank you all for coming in and attending the talk. Yes, Gitanjali.
हेलो मैम, मेरा ना एक जनरल सा क्वेश्चन था। जैसे हम जो मेन स्ट्रीम के बच्चे होते हैं, जनरल बच्चे भी, जब उनका अर्ली डेवलपमेंट पीरियड होता है, क्या हमें टीवी जो स्क्रीन टाइम है किस लिमिट तक देना चाहिए, कब देना चाहिए, इसके रिगार्डिंग?
Right. That's a really nice question and very relevant in our life right now.
यस मैम।
So screen time, I think there is a space in screen time जहाँ पर वो useful हो सकता है, and sometimes you have to see कि इसका cost क्या है. In that screen time में बच्चा engage करने की वजह से what are the things they are missing out on doing. So while screen time can be great, we are all on our phones, either talking to people or on Instagram or on Facebook. But if it's keeping us from doing work, and I often find myself like I'm on Instagram for so long that like it's been an hour, and because I was there for an hour, I have not finished my work yet. So it's keeping me from doing socially valid tasks or socially functional tasks in my immediate environment. So, and yes, that's a really good point by Rukmini, that it also depends on what the screen is being used for. Agar screen is being used for enriching work, there are a lot of apps out there that are actually helping the child kind of go through different types of skills. Like there's a Lingo Kids that helps your child go through
Yes, मैं बहुत बहुत कंसीडर करती हूँ कि मैं क्या बच्चे को दिखा रही हूँ, किस टाइम के लिए दिखा रही हूँ, उसको सडन क्लोज भी नहीं करती हूँ टीवी, और उसको इंस्ट्रक्शंस देती हूँ कि आप आपको 10 मिनट्स मिला है, इसके बाद क्लोज हो जाएगा, या मम्मा कुक कर रही है ना, अभी देख लो आप 20 मिनट्स, तो आप ये मैं फॉलो करती हूँ। लेकिन बच्चा ना, मुझे इस चीज का थोड़ा सा डर रहता है, क्योंकि आजकल हमारे पास बहुत सारे ऐसे बच्चे आ रहे हैं, बहुत एक्सेस में टीवी देख रहे हैं, और उनको ऑटिज्म के फीचर्स बहुत ज्यादा हैं।
Okay. I also think कि this is a great space जहाँ
स्क्रीन टाइम की वजह से है मैम, ज्यादा स्क्रीन टाइम की वजह से है क्या ये?
So I wouldn't know. I don't think that is the case कि autism के features increase हुए हैं because of more screen time. Autism is not caused by screen time. It is definitely a developmental disorder जहाँ पर थोड़े genetic factors हैं, कुछ environmental factors भी हैं. Screen time, however, makes us fall into a space of एक repetitive behavior pattern में कि मुझे यही काम बहुत देर तक मैं कर सकती हूँ. So I think ये उस कैटेगरी में फॉल करता है where ये इंटरेस्ट बहुत हाई है. अब ये अगर एक रिस्ट्रिक्टेड रिपेटिटिव इंटरेस्ट है तो हम इसको कैसे एक्सपैंड करें. So अगर स्क्रीन टाइम पसंद है and the child really likes playing those temple run kind of games where you're just kind of running and then you're just jumping. Great. Let's introduce different games which are similar. There's a Fall Guys, there's a Subway Surfer. Introduce different games similar. Then you can move on to other kind of screen times कि शायद बच्चा FIFA खेले या और complex video games खेले. So you can use screen time to actually increase their motor skills, increase their visual perception. And if they're liking this also, maybe they can go into digital space जहाँ वो coding करके खुद कहीं videos create करें. And there are a lot of simple coding activities now that one can do, जैसे कि Scratch या White Hat Junior, जहाँ पर बहुत अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन है कि बच्चा कैसे एक कैरेक्टर को मूव करा सकता है स्पेस में. सो लुक एट देयर इंटरेस्ट, व्हाट अबाउट दैट इज इंटरेस्टिंग, और हम कैसे उसको एक्सपैंड कर सकते हैं. तो ओवरऑल, टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, इट्स नॉट द बेस्ट टू हैव सो मच स्क्रीन टाइम, बट इफ स्क्रीन टाइम इज सो एक्साइटिंग कि वो वैसा वाला रीइंफोर्सर बन गया है कि
लर्निंग भी हो रही है बच्चे की, क्योंकि मैंने काफी मैं दिखाती हूँ तो वन वे कम्युनिकेशन ना हो उसमें, वो जो भी कुछ देख रहा है मैं कोशिश करती हूँ उसको अंडरस्टैंड भी करे, कि अगर उसमें कार जा रही है तो कार कौन से कलर की है, वो कार क्या कर रही है, मैं उसको सब बताती हूँ. और जब मैं नहीं बोलती, अब उसको पता लग गया तो वो खुद बोलता है इस चीजों को. लेकिन हम तो एजुकेटर्स हैं, तो हम चीजों को बहुत अच्छे से कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि बच्चा सीख ले. लेकिन कई बार पेरेंट्स आते हैं, वो बहुत ज्यादा स्क्रीन टाइम दे रहे हैं, वो वन वे में चल रहा है, बस बच्चा देखा जा रहा है.
राइट. सो आई थिंक दिस गोज बैक टू आवर एथिक्स कॉन्वर्सेशन कि हमारा कितना बाउंड्री है, हम कितना उसको ब्रीच करना चाहते हैं कि लेट्स हैव आवर चाइल्ड वर्क विद अस, एंड हमारे सेशंस में हम कितना इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं एक्सपैंडेड इंटरेस्ट. एंड अगर वो ये कर रहा है हमारे सेशन में सक्सेसफुली, देन वी कैन शो पेरेंट्स कि देखो वो इस गेम के अलावा ये 2 या 3 गेम्स और खेल रहा है, इंटरेस्ट ले रहा है डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशंस में, शायद लर्निंग एप्लीकेशंस में, तो क्या आप अपने डेली स्केड्यूल में ये कहीं ना कहीं इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं. दिस इज हाउ आई टीच इट. कैन यू ट्राई इट एट होम, सो दैट बिकॉज इट्स सच अ रीइंफोर्सिंग थिंग, इसको ले लेने से चैलेंजिंग बिहेवियर्स बढ़ सकते हैं. सो व्हेन यू थिंक दैट्स द केस, आप पहले एज अ प्रैक्टिशनर ट्राई करो एक्सपैंड करने के लिए इंटरेस्ट, एंड दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. कोई भी इंटरेस्ट हो, चाहे वो 1 घंटे के लिए हम करते हो, चाहे 4 घंटे के लिए, एक्सपैंड करना इज एनी विच वे इम्पोर्टेंट. So once you start expanding it and doing it successfully, then you can start conveying to parents कि देखो अब ये वो कर रहा है, I'm showing you a video of it, you also try at home. 1 या 2 applications आप भी घर पे try करो, and धीरे धीरे that skill will start generalizing to the home setting as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Any other thoughts or questions?
So one quick thought on screen time overload and autism together is that, like any other addiction, screen time addiction is also having a lot of social, financial, um, cognitive impacts. So the symptomatology that is coming out of screen time overload, because it is a very asocial activity, is having a lot of deficits or gaps or tolerance or emotional regulation spaces. It looks very similar to some of the features of autism. But do remember that autism starts, the diagnosis is only if it starts before 3 years of age, fulfills the DSM-5 criteria, has no other overlying medical condition. So there are very specifics to autism, but it is creating a social deficit,
Yeah.
which is one component that is visible in autism as well. So screen time overload syndrome will eventually become a disorder and a syndrome and as an addiction and a de-addiction. In fact, AIMS already possibly has started a screen de-addiction clinic space.
Yeah.
So just a thought on what one of the participants was saying कि क्या स्क्रीन से ऑटिज्म हुआ या ऑटिज्म से स्क्रीन में घुसा बच्चा. Between the two, one thought is before 3 years of age. Two thought is that screen overload, not screen per se, screen overload will increase the social and regulation gaps because it's got
Yeah.
no natural delay and no natural social expectation.
Yeah.
So the learning that happens when not on screen is missing and the opportunities are missing. So it will exaggerate all gaps and it will create its own gaps as well. But will it create autism? I doubt. Will it worsen autism? It's how you use it.
Right. That's a very nice perspective of worsening the pre-condition already. And yeah, a point to the regulation wala part, I think screen time does cause a big dysregulation for our children. जो हम setting events की बात करते हैं, lack of sleep, lack of eating, whatever has happened way before the behavior. Screen time often comes in the way of some natural daily living skills. Many times parents will say कि बच्चा रात भर स्क्रीन पे था, he didn't get his full time sleep, his full 8 hours of sleep. So if it's coming in the way of natural processes, it will eventually, you'll see it in the space of dysregulation also. तो वहां पर अगर ये किसी स्किल को इतने लेवल पे इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है that it's causing behaviors or it's taking away from your time of learning new skills, then definitely it is a place जहां हमारे को intervene करना चाहिए.
मैम ये हो रहा है कई बार, केसेस इस तरह के आते हैं जिसमें हमारे को पेरेंट्स बोलते हैं हम वर्किंग होते हैं, शाम को आके हमें खाना बनाना है, दोनों पेरेंट्स वर्किंग है, कुछ नहीं है तो बच्चा 4-4 5-5 घंटे टीवी वो मोबाइल देख रहा है, नहीं तो टीवी ही देख रहा है, और फिर जब बैटरी खत्म हो जाती है तब पेरेंट्स को पता लगता है कि हाँ भाई बैटरी खत्म हो गई, बच्चा रो रहा है, वो देख ही जा रहा है कॉन्टिन्यूअसली. इस तरह के केसेस 1-2 हमें देखने को मिले हैं.
Yeah. And अगर हम इस perspective से देखें, I think Smita has put up a really nice resource. That is a de-addiction clinic to technology and enhance. That's a really nice one, Smita. Thank you so much. But yeah, Gitanjali, to answer or to add to your thought, I think जब हम एक behavior restricted, repetitive किसी भी behavior को देखते हैं, तो we want to create space जहाँ alternative behavior क्या है इसके लिए. तो अगेन एक्सपैंडिंग इंटरेस्ट तो है ही, बट अगर वो घर आके सिर्फ स्ट्रीम कर रहा है, स्क्रीन पे देख रहा है, इट इज ऑल्सो बिकॉज दैट इज द ओनली थिंग अवेलेबल राइट नाउ. तो क्या हम उसको कुछ और एक्टिविटीज से इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं? मे बी इट्स आर्ट, मे बी इट्स डांस, मे बी इट्स योगा, मे बी समथिंग दैट ही कैन डू ऑन हिज ओन, बिकॉज हमें ये तो कॉन्टेक्स्ट समझ आ गया कि पेरेंट्स
ऑल्टरनेशन तो हमें देना ही है, और वो एकदम से तो रिड्यूस होगा नहीं, वो
Correct.
स्लोली ही रिड्यूस होगा. उसने बच्चे ने वो लर्न कर लिया है, उसको अनलर्न करना इतना इजी नहीं होने वाला है।
Yeah.
पेरेंट्स को धीरे धीरे करके उसको चैनलाइज करना पड़ता है।
Yeah. And chains create करो, you know, phone access इतनी easily नहीं मिलेगा. Like I said, phone may be having no battery, phone को on करके आपको use करना है, फिर एक certain time के बाद वापस दे भी देना है. So create longer chains around the task as well, कि वो task थोड़ा सा और effortful हो, वो reinforcer इतना easily accessible ना हो. But it's a really nice socially valid goal for all of us to pick up. कि new interests proactively हम introduce करें अपने बच्चों के लिए, because yeah, I think otherwise we'll get too stuck into one space. So even if you're not taking up any other goals, if you feel like leisure time goals introduce करने, that's a really nice one. कि बच्चा जब अपने आप free time में है, they should know how to engage themselves in a way that's maybe not fully functional, but at least it is a leisure activity that they enjoy and can do on their own, like a color, craft, art, music, whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's worth spending time introducing new leisure activities to children as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other thoughts, any other questions about anything that has been covered up until now, as well as, of course, जो हमने आज discuss किया है? Everyone is clear on socially valid goals, and we'll be seeing a lot of new goal settings with taking the context of the child in mind. All right. Okay, that's great. I'll end my presentation here. If there are any other questions, you can always approach us. And thank you everyone for being part of this 3-day seminar and doing so well in understanding and giving us so many nice questions about ABA, the ethics of it, as well as trying to understand and kind of get into what we can do when we are setting new goals and skills. Because I think that was a very big one that we wanted to bring up here, as we are all practitioners who are setting skills and goals while we are trying to make sure that our child is in very compassionate care, but also learning. Yeah. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a really lovely weekend ahead.
Thank you so much, Nindika ma'am. It was a very lovely session, and the knowledge which you shared with us make us aware about more into the vocational, how ABA can work in the vocational setting. Very few people will be getting to know this, like the way you shared your knowledge. It's like very, 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 very encouraging, and everyone will be using it while they practice. Thank you so much. As we are almost done with our 3-day CRE program, and now it's about to end. So I request Dr. Ray Prakash Singh, sir, our officer in charge, NIEPID Navy, Mumbai, to give vote of thanks.
Yeah, very good evening to all of you. And once again, I'm here. First of all, now we are at the end of the program. And this 3 days extensive training on ABA, I hope that it developed your competency in applying this particular strategy. I'm very much thankful to Dr. Priyanka Jain and then her team, including Miss Vanilla, Shraddha Sharma, Karuna, Ipsita Banerjee, Miss Vijayata, Miss Rajia, Miss Priyanka Sethi, and Miss Nitika, that there are national and international speakers who joined with us, and they shared actual what is happening in the classrooms, which is happening in the school setup, which is happening in the at home, what are the actual problem and what are the remedial strategies, how we can adopt, how we can improve upon issues which we are facing as a teacher, as a parent. So thank you so much, all of you. And it's a great privilege for us that you joined us, and definitely your inputs which you have given will going to make a change in the classroom. That is the ultimate objective, that once the professionals are getting into their work, they should carry out something from here, and they should implement, and they should they will be more beneficial for the children. So ultimate beneficiary is the child only. So definitely whatever we learned from you, however, I was not able to attend the sessions on all 3 days, but I'm having the recording. So definitely I'll go through all the sessions whenever I have time. But once again, thank you very much, and congratulations to the course coordinator, Miss Claudia, for successful completion. So without taking much time, I don't want to be much in between you and your certificate. So over to you, Claudia, madam, and please uh, go ahead with the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So now I request to all dear participants to switch on the camera so that we can take a group picture.
Ma'am, can we have some verbal feedback from the participants who are attending last 3 days? However,
Yes,
written
sir.
feedback they will submit, but how much they like the program or any
Hello.
things that is not yet there so far.
Hello.
Yeah, Rosemary, it's audible. You are audible.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful to NIEPID for this, because actually we are so motivated to do. I was asking that whether I can continue ABA. I mean, do further learning. So there's, as we know, that there's a 40 hours course. But that's what I understood. So I thought I'll try to do that, because it's so helpful for me, because I'm working in a CBSE school, and we have a lot of children with autism and learning disabilities, ADHD, like they're all cerebral palsy. So many children. So I'm sure ABA is going to really help. Even I didn't know in detail so much information is so new to me, even though a little bit I knew, but not this much. So actually very, very useful for me these 3 days. And maybe I would like to do that course so that I can certify. Something I would like to get the details by mail if possible. It was a really wonderful session. Such a lot of information, such a brief time, but still everything was covered with a lot of examples, a lot of videos. So the learning was really, really, really good. You know. So thank you so much for organizing this. To all who have taken the class, to the organizers, everyone, thank you so much.
We've had such wonderful audience that I think it's been such a pleasure for all of us to, present to you all.
Thank you.
Can anybody else from the participant side, can you share your experience? Prajakta?
Sure, ma'am. Hello to all, and I think the experience for me was completely different, because the questions that I always had in my mind were answered so much with ease, and the suggestions really are going to help me to practice in real. So I think practically जो required है, that knowledge is something that I have achieved from this workshop. So I think this was really interesting and very knowledgeable. Although I felt it was very short term and ended really fast, probably there is a lot more to learn in this. So hoping to see more and learn more in the field. Thank you so much, all of you.
If I could just add here, in terms of the feedback that we have to give, I think so the COVID time was such where we got an opportunity to attend these online sessions on an ongoing basis. And trust me, every program that we have attended, at least my feedback would be on that sense. There is a lot of learning that I've taken back. Being associated with this field for the past 20 years seems so less, and somewhere we still feel there's so much more that we need to gather from each other. And being an online mode made it easy for us to associate even with the team, which is not in Delhi, since I'm based in Delhi. But having these interactions, I had requested Ravi sir earlier also, because came a phase when they said, now we'll go for the offline mode. And I was keeping my fingers crossed that we get back to this online mode somewhere so that we can also benefit from it. And I think so this has been a blessing in disguise for us. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate on behalf of everyone for the wonderful work that you people are doing. And thank you, and I hope this carries on and this goes a long way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the online mode again. I will also join that because I'm attending from Cochin, so so grateful to you for that, having it online. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Manoj.
From my side, ma'am, it was a wonderful 3-day session, and a lot of, I have not been practicing behavior therapy, especially ABA, but I have gone through during my MPhil course. And meanwhile, some of the tips and techniques we have been utilizing, depending on the requirement of the patient. So basically, I have been using the cognitive therapy in my most of the cases, and somewhere the behavior component was requiring to be addressed. We use those behavioral techniques has been taught in and learned in the part of the CBT itself. So it was very wonderful how the theoretical content has been converted into practical manners, and the examples given, and especially the videos which had been added in between to make the concept more clear. It was quite a great learning opportunity from all the speakers, and really it was a wonderful program. And I will request to the NIEPID to have such kind of programs frequently, and to involve the field, the professional from the different field, and it was very enriching. Really, thank you so much. Thank you, the team, as well as the speakers.
Thank you, Manoj. Rukni ma'am, you can share your feedback. Your mic is unmute. Please unmute your mic.
Just wanted to say thank you to all of you for organizing this, and to all the speakers. It was a very, very informative 3 days. And in spite of having been in this field for many, many years now, ABA is something I have always been curious about. And I think now I'm more curious that I've gotten to do a little bit. I want to know more. Wonderful. And all the presentations were so well done with, everyone working in the field. So you were able to put in so much of your own experience into it. I loved some of the graphics that were used. Some of the, they really sort of made them interesting, because at the end of 3 years of COVID, we've all got used to so many presentations, yet these, these held our attention. And the discussions at the end of each session were sort of interesting, and everyone took part. So thank you so much. Learned a lot.
Anybody else like to share? Shilpa Dalvi tested very fruitful 3 days for learning more about ABA techniques.
Yeah, I think Jharna has raised a hand and asked a question in every session. She still has her hand raised, so I'm just so proud of her. No, Jharna, I think it's really made our day to hear questions. And sometimes you ask the question and we've gone through that same thing, and we feel the frustration and the joy together. So go ahead, Jharna and Himprabha.
I never thought that I would be seeing you like this, and that too, in ABA, in the field of ABA. And I'm so much thankful to Lucky sir that we have still, gone through this online courses. But in between, he was like off, and I was like, oh, now what will we do? Because we are like in a working state, right? So now it feels so good after, going through all these 3 days. It feels just like we have that just tip of an iceberg. It still feels that we have to learn so many things. There are still many things that we have to understand. There are things that people are still not working. That is sensitization is the thing that I've been, talking again and again. So if you as a senior coach and on that level, if you all can work together and do something for that, that would be really good for the kids. So this is maybe my personal point of view, or everybody has that, but I don't know, things are not happening the way that it should. I am in this field since 22 years, in the field of disability, but in ABA, it's since 2009. But now I question myself that am I a really an ABA therapist? Because do I have to get that tag for it, or is it like just going on process? Because this is something that it has to be licensed, which I am not. So I wanted to ask you that is it really important to get into this or BCBA or CAS, some program like that? So I again have a question in this also.
You asked me a question is doing schooling important, is doing MBBS important, and then doing cardiology important? I think doing all of them have their own kind of a thing. So it depends on where you are practicing, how you create your own professional lines, limits, goals, and collaboration points. I really feel that everybody should know. I think anybody who's in the field of education or therapy should know a little bit of applied behavior analytic principles, should be a proponent of positive behavior support strategies, should be compassionate towards a child and a family that they are serving, should be very, very compassionate towards yourself. I think this morning somebody was saying that, you feel so lost sometimes. Is it not something we are doing right? Or are we not knowing enough? Like every day we feel those. So I really feel that all of us should know it as a science, a part of it, as much as we use, but we should also know that this is beyond what we know and then go on to learn more. So is it important to get a RBT certification or a BACB board certification? I think knowing is perhaps more important than being certified. Certification is just a way of saying that I have studied in detail.
We discussed that we will refer this to social worker to help her out. But
Somebody's thing is working. So answering your question is that I don't know when we finish BCBA. Do we know everything? No, I finished BCBA in 2013. I think everything I know is after that. And it's, that was just the beginning of the learning. I had the theoretical base, but I think a lot of workshops, a lot of hands-on trainings, a lot of having a collaborative space, and the foundation is now really working. And I think even the other speakers that you heard, we are all now thinking to create that space of collaboration where people can come in and collaborate with each other as a professional. Not everybody needs to be a BCBA, but as long as we can support each other and say, Jharna, what were you doing? And this is what we were doing. Then I think that ongoing learning is possibly a better platform to create, but degrees will always be needed. Experts will always be needed, right? So cardiologist अपना काम करता है, एक जनरल मेडिसिन वाला बंदा अपना काम करता है, और एक जो नर्सेज और कंपाउंडर्स और टेक्नीशियंस कर सकते हैं, या एक जो सब अपना अपने फील्ड में, like they can't exist without each other. It's all important. So I feel that certification gives you the confidence that you are an expert, and you read it more in detail, and it tells other people also what you have read. So it's just a standardized degree, and it's important, I feel, but it's not an only thing that exists in this world.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for answering my questions. And
Thank you, Jana, for asking so many questions. It has been wonderful.
When you deal a child, there are so many things, and I don't know whom to ask. I mean, I don't know whom to ask. So where do I go? So that is somewhere I, lack as in my, my confidence level goes down. If I cannot do this, then who else can do this, and whom can I approach? So that
I
is the
think
big.
this is what I'm thinking, that if we could create a collaborative platform of sharing and learning, maybe not case specific, but still sharing and learning, it would be wonderful. So I think we'll strive towards it, and hopefully in a year we'll create that platform.
Thank you so much to all the,
In fact, as you say this, Vijeta is right now thinking and thinking about this for the foundation. Imprabha, you raised your hand. You want to share?
Oh, yes, ma'am. It was such a wonderful learning experience. All the topics were explained so well and beautifully. All the questions were addressed by the speakers. And thank you to the organizers for organizing such an informative session. Waiting for more sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Hemaprabha. Dear participants, can you everyone please switch on your camera so that we can take a photos?
I can see only 8 people. Hi, Razia. How do you see everybody in a Google this thing?
There is something.
We can't see everybody.
I don't think so many people can be on one screen, I think.
So I think if you go to more options and on top it says change layout, then you can make it maximum tile. So more tiles will come on the screen.
You are my digital brilliant expert. This
That's
is
literally the application.
yeah, she's just
Nidhika ma'am, can you tell me one more time?
Yes, you go on to the 3 dots and from the top it says change layout.
Yeah.
Then you can go on to tiled and then make the thing that scrolls all the way to the right side. So it'll have the most.
Yes.
I've got 40 on my screen now. While Nitika does pre-vocational work. आपको सुनाई दे रहा होगा my boys करके. She works in a marketing research office now and is training on site. But her joy in the last year was that we can do digital skills. I think उनको सिखा के, and of course exploring it herself, she's become a master of
Technology.
I know. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining in. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ipshita, Vijeta, Razia, Nitika. So people have come out from all over India to come and work. Vijeta lives in Varanasi, Ipshita is in Gurgaon, Nitika is in Gurgaon, Shraddha is in Mumbai, Razia is in Mumbai. Vijeta, I already said, I'm in Delhi proper. Who am I missing? I can't see. Mantra is in Noida, yes. So we've all come from like the whole of India to come in and,
Myself from Kerala.
Yes, and see, all of you are from all over India as well. You've got like the whole of India here, Clelia.
Yeah, all of India is here.
Yes. And Atmika is in Coimbatore. I forgot. She's the youngest of us. She's an RBT. She's finished her coursework, but unfortunately is not being allowed to give exams. But she runs a center in Coimbatore with her family, who's also in the field.
Yes, my mom is a DCPA and
Yes, Kalpana is a DCPA. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. This CRE cannot be successful without people who devote their time and resources. And just to make sure everything is perfect, Dr. Priyanka is such a personality who was like throughout with us, and the speakers, the team showered all the knowledge. It's a lot of knowledge, and everything we have you people shared and discussed during these 3 days will be with us and will be helpful for our future adventurers. Thank you so much, ma'am.
I am so proud of my team. I'm like, take a bow, everybody. It was बहुत ही अच्छा presentation और बहुत ही clinically relevant. मतलब मुझे भी मजा आ गया सुन के. Like it's my refresher as well. It was just very well done. Thank you, Clelia, for giving us an opportunity.
It's a pleasure, ma'am.
All collaborate soon. If you could all share your email addresses with Clelia, and then she can share with us.
I will share with you, ma'am. Sure.
Updated on courses or workshops or things that we are setting up. And that collaborative table where people can come in to help more and more children is surely coming in slowly and steadily in the next week. Not week, year, sorry.
Yeah.
Should we just put it on the WhatsApp group?
I think you'll have to give it to Clelia for Clelia to share with us, because we are not all connected.
We have already submitted the email ID while we are filling up the form. I think Madam from transfer.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Manoj, Clelia will help us with that. And then we want to send out a follow-up kind of, feedback form to see how we could improve content, what else got you curious, what else would be, we could collaborate with NIEPID and come up with more and more for you. Right, Clelia?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. We will be collaborating with you and we will work on it.
Yes.
So here, with this, we come to an end for our 3-day CRE program. And thank you, dear participants, dear speakers.
Ma'am, photo sessions, you're talking about the photos.
Photos is already I took the photos and I saved it.
Okay. Right.
So the link for the attendance is already I shared with you people, and the evaluation link is will be shared with the WhatsApp group and in the chat box. Along with that, feedback form also will be shared. Please fill the forms, and the links will be open till 6:30. Please remember, the links will be only open till 6:30 today.
All right. Thank you, everybody, then. Clelia, can we go?
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
everyone.
Did Clelia say yes?
Yes, she said yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. See you.
Thank you all.
Ma'am, how long it will take us to get the certificates?
Yeah, about the certificates, you will be getting within 10 working days. Okay. Within 10 working days, you will be getting the certificates in your mail ID. If you people are not received, just drop me a message.
Okay, thank you so much. Hoping
Yeah,
to
please,
see you again.
and please remember that within 10 working days, I will be working on it, and I will be, after that only, I will be sending. Before that, please don't keep on message and asking me like, certificate nahi mila, please. I will be sending only after 10 working days. Please remember that 10 working days.
Thank you so much, Clelia. See you again.
Yes, we'll see you.
Excuse me, मैम, कोई आज असेसमेंट सीट नहीं है क्या?